다 우리 그 계세 나는 소dim 그 담당이다. 다지나 그 겨우 상고를 했어. 이제도 담보 끊는데 뭐 다 니마숨 저런 거 니마숨 다 이 코스트 오래다. 유이다. 어디 접종 지해야 되는 배제 준비 다 배자하시고 저희 이주산 전화지 이주다 견다는 것이면 굴론하고 보여라. 다만 먼저 굴론 공부했어요. 얘들이 그게 코스트 계산하면 소득만 야고지니 야고지 상당 수저 미심 상고시 상고 상고시 단다 되게 상고 상고대 이제 텔레 야르다 미 상고 상고면은 아니 내가 가르치는 가보도 알아.
So now this weekend course, we're studying this 37 practices of Bodhisattva. So the main purpose with this is to develop this pure motivation, right? So we've got like a 3-day course here. So you need to take this time to study well, right? To listen and study well, because this is an extremely like holy and powerful text. So the main thing we need to do is have this pure motivation. So we're going to do a bit of meditation here to cultivate this motivation. So what you need to be doing is thinking that when you do this, during this course, you're going to listen well and you're going to contemplate the meaning well, but also you're going to have this kindness and this pure motivation as you do so. So it's very important to develop the right motivation, because without that, then, everything becomes pretty difficult.
we do some meditation. 네. 다디 텐주 담보 보러. 텐주 담보 루규 되게 히스토리 데데 시기였다. 히스토리 디 캐나데 로 인지털이 여러 인지털이 여러. 그래서 뭐 Loju yore, loju digital yore.
No, did so I'm talking.
No. Usually they have. Usually, muji tome sargo history English.
Oh, you mean do we have in general?
Yeah,
Yeah, there'll be somewhere.
Mm.
Somewhere we'll have.
I think they already have. This is very
Yeah.
famous lama, and this is your homework. Your history and
The life story of Gelsed Togme. It'll be. I'm sure it'll be translated somewhere. I thought he meant do we have it like now, but no.
So the life story
Of Gelsed Togme, the author of the 37 Practices.
I think there is massive there.
Yeah.
He's very famous.
Oh, sorry, Togme Sangpo. I get them mixed up all the time. I don't know why.
Author.
Yeah.
Talk
Togme Sangpo, no? I don't know why I get Gelsed Togme and Togme Sangpo mixed up.
That day, the chair, dinner, that Luguna, the Yamsambu the day. I think his story a lot interesting you're reading and developing your Buddhist practice. Buddhist practice a little bit lazy. You're reading this story. One thing is he wrote this text and in Tibet, he was born in Tibet, and he wrote in Peva and Peva dry, Kambusu,
Dry.
Suddenly there wind coming, wind blow, he takes everywhere, everywhere go, takes go. And he said, it's okay, this good. Demde I was, Demde.
Tindre?
Hello. Demde.
Tindro.
Demde I walk. Demde I watch on the left. Demde is now. Demde is now. I think good karma. I think maybe good karma.
Oh, like auspicious. That's, yeah.
Demde I was okay.
It's auspicious. Tindre. Is it? Okay.
Yeah, this way. That they did. Kasugul Kura, Maumba, Niag Teddy, Zamunula, Mimamola Pendo Yamures, and Foran they do to make choice. Chedan did Handa, the Zambuling, me, Mango, the taped the Gaush.
Right, so from that, he then later became of great benefit to many sentient beings across, obviously across hundreds of years, because this text has become very kind of famous and well renowned.
That I'm waiting to the Shevala, that one, that Peve Dinju Tondan, taped down, Rumshija, the Lambda Shiva, Pevagi, that Dinju Mazon, Korangi, Tim Dog Shiva, Tim Soul, Dodan, Dum Shiva.
Right.
I was not Chobajuba.
Okay.
Some jungle and she jukes, didn't she go, didn't she know that didn't Peveg Dinju Hare, somebody in a subject and the way.
Right. So, when Tibetans compose the text, there's always like a traditional method or way of composing a text that has 3 parts. 4 parts, sorry. So did Tamba University di Sumba?
Chobajuba, Zamba Tamjuba, some jungle and she jubi turned to us, she.
Right. Oh, okay. So then we have the 4 parts. We have the praise to the Chupa Chupa, like the praise or the veneration. We have the promise to compose. Right, and then there's the actual engagement in the composing and the actual composed text itself. So there's 4 parts to it there, but mainly the first 2 is what we're talking about now.
That Chubajuba's live in that Tango Dilla or Marazo Lega Karachavina. Give that last Hagward, the give a chavala chumbushi. Sonam Saga, Chubajuba, Sonam Saga. And immediately gadgeting. Sonam Saga was Chubajuba. How jealous Sobata, how jealous Chensta, Sobata. Tera Harchen, how jealous Soda. 소남 사기 소남 소남 사 소남 가르치는 사고 그랬습니다. 땡주지 장비 있어. 땡주 장비 최초도 바제만 뭐요. 다결하서 하고 그러고. 최초도 바제 되지요. 제가 바제세가 소남 사고. 제가 땡주 장비 있을 때 땡주 다녀라. 맞다. 소남 사기 요새 초바줘야 돼. 아니 가르치 지요를 스케줄 되는데 땡주 장비 있어 좀 담자.
Yeah. So the first two, the point of these, the praise is mostly main focus is to accumulate merit, right? Because, and then there's also this commitment to compose, and the reason you need to accumulate this merit and have this commitment to compose is because often, like when you try and engage in Dharma practice, then many obstacles can come about. I mean, we all know that, right? So by having this praise to accumulate this merit and making the strong commitment to compose the text, then it can help to overcome the obstacles that might arise in the actual engagement in the practice.
저 내니기 전시회 보내 저저요 뭐 연반이 전시회 보내 와 내니기 전시회 또 내니기 전시회 이제 장글라 당연하죠 되게 로전시해야 돼 계정 차를 봐 연반이 가려야 근데 지난 도다스스스스게 내가 너무 쉬워 도다 대체 내니기 남셔야 돼 남바산제하게 투모 많이 벌어지 차 되게 있어요 저 힌두도 저 연반직 매시 연반이 있어야 돼 세계가 말해 아딩사 딩두 체리게 니니 샤싱인가 니니 샤마시네 건도 톰도가 호서 톰도 그래도 계속 년대는 톰도
So before we get into this text, there's a little bit of background that needs to be understood. So we need to basically have a basic or have an understanding of the two truths, right? We need to study and understand this. Now, within the two truths, there's many different, there's different presentations according to the different tenet systems, and you come across this a lot when you study the tenets. But this idea of the two truths is something that is unique to Buddhism, right? The Hindu philosophies in India, they don't talk about these two truths. They only have one truth. Yeah, and scientists, they only talk about, they don't have two truths either. Oh, okay. Right. So, within Buddhism, there's the different tenet systems, the Great Exposition School, Sutra School, Mind Only School, and the two middle way schools, right? Now, within those, Togmi Sangpa actually had the view of the middle way school, but the Sautrantika or autonomous view, not the Majjhimika Prasangika view, right? Or the middle way consequence school. But however, when we talk about it, Geshe's going to talk about the Majjhimika Prasangika view. Because if we kind of swap back and forth between different views, it gets a little bit confusing for you guys. So it's good to just stick with one and go with that. But it's good to have a bit of a background or a story behind the text and behind it so that you can get an understanding and you get a greater appreciation and understanding of the text itself.
시내가스 먼저 다 대반이 남샤데 리고 시내가스로 시내가스 대니 남샤데 야고지 시에메이나 다 먼저 딱 데리 딱 당마라도 상단으로 먼저 다 친구도 주단다 수수 셈게 동해 용단 디지 용단 데다 상단에 리고다 또다지 동해 근데 친구도 쓰지 주단 게 몽고실에 된 이유도 그래서 유연을 되네 뭐 유어도다 제가 유연을 되네 유어도요래 아니 다네 유연을 되네 유어도도 로드자가라 먼저 유연이 야야야 대로나 배나 팀상이 말하죠 강의시시에 스트레스다 로니네스다 디프레션다 도즈리도 도저 상례 오다나 란진질이네 이거지 samlushtana radho sammadana ta radhoyage yo marero sammadana kochayage yo mare ranjinje ta dumye sonye ta termandre dumye sonye termandre manzula
The tema?
zo ko ranjinje nyumong charo 저다 교보랑 nyumong chade 디 데버디 마치고 요아야 되다 그 잠깐만 차야 돼요 그래서 뭐 도당을
So, when we understand the two truths a little bit, then when we look at external phenomena, right, then we can understand that they arise dependent on causes and conditions. And because they arise as dependent arising because of causes and conditions, because of that, that means they become susceptible to change. So because they're constantly changing, it gives us a greater understanding of the situation. And also from an internal conditions, like we're always facing emotional issues like stress and loneliness and so forth, right? And if we analyze, we can understand that this actually all comes about due to our self-cherishing attitude. If we don't really analyze or check, then of course we don't understand it. But when we really check, we can actually see and understand that the self-cherishing is the source of all our suffering, right? Or is the root of all our suffering. So basically from the self-cherishing comes our other delusions, and then the delusions bring about suffering. So basically delusions act as the cause, and then the result from that is suffering.
규직이 내가 그 되우지 그랬다. 내가 그 되우라.
Right.
그때 내가 그 단지래다. 제가 다디 매웠어요. 이 요즘에 상당히 들어. 먼저 수수비 콘도다 마제다 비자다. 그래서 너무 ran신도 상당도 매웠어요. 요즘에 대변인 뭐 요즘에 상당히 지장가라. 다디야야 투드를 ran신지를 투고요. ranjidi gyalo na tanzi thuyo tanzi ro ma se ne ro tiyo ma ma se ne ma tang la samlo ma samstang yo ro ma se de te ma de sammango tani de la ranjidi shukcha ro ma la ta chara zo khan men do chuju gan de lobde kurang ne ranjidi lagu do lobde na ne ranjidi chö ya ko chö jo 아니 베데다 저랑래 야가요 말에 저랑래 젬바요 말에 다 쳐도 거를 약효 상만 켜로 거를 로아 미신달라다 제대로 저랑 고거래서 계산을 해 버렸어 가면도 아니라서 그런 시험이다 말하는 상황 주주간에 란진지 잔잘라 아니 딱히 베드 타고 싶지 않아 네게 당면서 디나라 디 타워로 되네 디 계속 뭐 뭐라 버버든다네 봐 전도고요. 당 디는 거래 잡시듯이요.
Okay.
주 계속 보어도 계속 보면은 거래 잡아야 돼. 먼저 디치로 전도고요. 말아. 근데 수수로는 단생이 찡돼요. 만지디 찡돼요. 근데 그런 게 내가 뭐 왜니 줄이죠. 그 수직이 소녀면 수수죠.
So when we look at this immediate like cause and effect, then we need to understand things like anger, etc., anger, attachment, jealousy, and so forth. These all act as delusions and become the cause for suffering. Right? So we need to investigate and analyze these minds and see, is it possible to remove them? Can we actually eradicate these minds? Is there an antidote to these delusions and so forth? So we need to understand that. If we really analyze and we understand, then at the source of all of these delusions, problems, and suffering comes first the self-cherishing, and behind that is the self-grasping, right? So these two, because we're constantly thinking of I, myself all the time, always thinking about us, and because of that, our self-cherishing increases. Also, when we're at school, they always encourage this attitude of self-cherishing, saying, you're good and you're kind of trying to do better than everybody else, and you want to win and achieve more than others, and so forth, right? So you're kind of encouraged to think of yourself as, or try to be better than others, right? So then again, this develops and encourages self-cherishing to become stronger. But as long as you're caught in this self-cherishing attitude, it's like being caught in a water bubble, right? And you just cycle round and stuck in this water bubble because of the self-cherishing attitude. You can't actually get past it or beyond it, right? So this, and this is nothing that comes from anywhere else. We all create this for ourselves.
다들 군소든 배로다니 데이터 군소든 방어에 대해서 도단 귤레드네 저 중단 돈에 또 sama 내가 도단지 봐. 다들 군소든 맞세요다. 예. 다들 도단지 시험도 상가라 아니 먼저 덴바시난 게 아니 유군주 덴바다 저부터 덴스야 남샤디 시험 거래.
거나?
유군주 덴바시.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
디 시험 거. 가서는 ngaade ngel dungai ka ngaade dungai ro ba de dungai mongbo shewsto kang mongbo shewti kane ya sangda ji nyomor de nayo ko tadi ya sangda ne luden de kane le ngor se de an le da nyomo de zole de ne chungsha sangda ji nanda duden ge phungbo de gyudi ani dimo de mare ba ta nga se ta ngale de chungso se ba cha jang ro jeju sangla ani yambashina ge Demba Tambuni di Kodan di Dina de Lian Wires.
Demba Tambuni di Gogden.
Gogden, Demba Tambuni, Tunga Demba, the Kunja Demara.
Right.
Goden and Mijeli, the Lama.
Oh, okay. So, if we think about this I, right, and then we need to understand like this method of how it comes about. We need to understand how it develops and what is the result of it and what comes about because of it, right? Now, so this is all to do with the relative truth, and therefore is like this temporary kind of adventitious situation. But when we look at the first two of the Four Noble Truths, then we look at the second truth is the cause of all our suffering, right? And then the first truth, so it acts like a kind of a cause and effect between the second and the first noble truth. So when we look at it in terms of the karma and delusion, this is what causes us to then take rebirth in these in like our body or these contaminated aggregates, right? And then when we look at, so that's the result. But when we look at the cause for all of this karma and delusion, it comes down to this I, right? So from this grasping I comes this karma and comes delusions, and then creates karma, which causes us to take rebirth within these five aggregates. But the source of all of it, the cause of all of it, is this self-grasping.
아니 다데 나마사 데 마 짐바나시 하세요. 근데 통보를 되면이 라문에 주어로 덴버 주어로 진대요. 덴버 주어디 유엔에 다제 시행 대상거나 해요 말이야. 저는 이거 말이야. 말아서 생기야 지 서제 생나올에 샤데 교지 서데려야 아니 진제 또 대왕이 차단이 뭐 게는데 아 다디 민도 상에 상로 딜레 딜라다 데즈 남베게 shungi, tarugi namshadu peya wayarwa, tarugi namshadu zagi, ane, di, tako.
Temba drupa yomara.
Temba drupa yomara, es, ramane drupa yomara leyondi, dame drupa sherab sayadi yunguyorta. Dame drupa sherab leyondi zangala, di, temba drupa mewa di, tondan temba rata. Tondan temba sheyundi zangala, ane dame drupa sherab shey. Dila dene, ane, ta, namdo yungur drupa re. 라시고랑 남도니 그래서는 그 딘지디 다 텐좀 사사도 내라 먼저 어디 이나면은 텐좀 다시 사회 있네 딘지디 용으로 딘지 용으로는 란지지 용으로는 아니 롤리네스 다 사자르시다 가서 스트레스다 인자도도 라시게 다 용으로 요고 규디 도도 상당히 다 딘지 메어서 텀나다 뭐네 뭐 방법 용도도 선비 아니 거기에서 다 용사했어
Okay.
that's anything machine nabi kodhen da lamdeng ga khole gi ta da
So this grasping in the I is based on this fact that we hold this self or this I to be this truly existent entity, and then we grasp at that. So in reality, though, this isn't truly existent. Right? And when we start to understand that, when we understand the absence of this truly existent I, then we start to develop the wisdom that understands selflessness, the wisdom that realizes selflessness. And the closer we get to that, the more we start to understand it, the deeper we get, then that's when we start to understand our ultimate truth, right? So even having doubt towards this aspect of truly existent, the more doubt we have, then the less our grasping becomes, and the grasping of truly existent becomes less, then our delusions become less, and therefore our suffering becomes less, right? And when we completely understand, when we have this complete, full realization of selflessness, then that's when we get to understand the truth of cessation, right? So that's the third noble truth, and then the fourth one, of course, is the truth of the path. Okay, so because of the two truths, then that's how the four truths come about. Okay, so Gogden Lambdan Chukunju. So through understanding the four truths, we understand the three objects of refuge. So for example, the truth of cessation and the truth of the path, we understand the Dharma. Because if we can... Dharma jewel. We understand the Dharma jewel. Okay. Sorry. So through the truth of the path and the truth of cessation, we understand the Dharma jewel. Now, for example, because if we understand, if we cease to create karma, right? Like all our suffering comes from our karma. So if we didn't have any karma, then of course we wouldn't have any suffering. Gendung kunju or sangi kunju?
Gindu kunjo di chu kunjo yulu de kansan de che.
La?
Gindu kunjo se de chu kunjo yulu de kansan de la gindu kunjo.
Oh, okay.
Ta gindu kunjo de ge chu nyamle che de ya de ne ko sanje cha gi yo ji ta ko de le res.
All right. So through the Dharma jewel, we understand the Sangha jewel, right? So the one who has this Dharma jewel in one's mind becomes the Sangha jewel, right? So it becomes the Sangha jewel, and through developing the practices, developing up further, then they become the Buddha jewel. So this is how we understand the three jewels through the Four Noble Truths.
Sanje Tobela, the Langarnian Shogorella, the Chanjuk Sim Yaminchia. That Nidina, that Yevota, Shem, Resta, that the Yaminchidan, but Yede, Chanju Sim Yame, Chanju Sim, Tashin Yamji, Lojanda. And that Digala, Chanju Sim, you Yamincha, you would champion Yameva, you would champion Yameva, you would champion Yamlechola, you would drink down, you would champion Yamle, one of dog warrior. 어디 되게 상어 되는 시험 거래서.
Okay. So, in order to attain the state of enlightenment, in order to become a good Buddha, and then what do we have to practice? We have to practice this bodhisattva vehicle or this bodhisattva path, right? So, in order to this practice of this bodhisattva vehicle is considered the great scope practice. But in order to develop the great scope practice, you first have to set the foundation in the small and medium scope. So this is what we're going to talk about today.
이 교우 친구 조선나도 그냥 배제 하다 보이거든요. 로스 lap샤이나 거든.
Okay, so
계절이 가려가는 시기에 근데 삼로데 대가 대가 다 망고차라. 좀 싫어데 좀.
right. So you guys don't have the three scopes in the text at the moment, but we're just going to talk about it. So, what?
일단 교우 친구라도 교우 친구
Okay.
또 상담하러 교우치마 준비도 이제 이다 남바게다 도리 tuk시게로 맞아 따이네 먼저 마시베 윤진지 요마를 놔두고 말아 먼저 하면거나 요마를 놔두고 말아 먼저 시험받기 둘도 통과했다 기다 아까 둘도 먹고 또하다 둘도 강의 먼저 통과도 근데 겨울랭게 버더니 먼저 삼무시 단디다 다들 건디시하고 나시 고조된 변함샤 근데이 남샤 상담이 겨우마지 고들레오라 겨우마지 고들레인데 겨우치마에는 겨울레오라 겨울레는 tundu로지 겨울레는 배사야다 강에 시베제 되샤 딜레 밀 겨울레네 야서래서 당아 겨우치마 밀 겨울레는 다 대치되나 구조선 겨스도고 이 최치기 상담은 대유중샤고라 유중을 주냐면 잘하고
So the small scope being is primarily motivated by fear of the suffering of the lower realms, right? Not wishing to take rebirth in the lower realms. So as in the Buddhist philosophy, we hold to 6 realms of existence, right? Now, even though we might not be able to directly perceive all of those, just because we can't directly see something, that's not a basis for us to say that it doesn't exist. And certainly we can see animal and insects and so forth, right? So if you hold to rebirth and the law of cause and effect, then it stands to reason. It's definitely possible to be reborn as an animal, right? And having been born as an animal or an insect, you can see the incredible suffering that you'd have to experience. So having understood the suffering of the animals and the lower realms, then the small scope being becomes motivated to take rebirth as a human. And then that's their primary motivation for engaging in practice.
다 미래 겨울에네 하고도 당연하죠. 알레 하다지 계지시고 할래 동네들이 열어서고 알레 하 알아서 미래 동네 가져도 강에 가져도 아니 미로지 당고도도 지 어디데 미래다 다 퍼펙트하지 팅거래라. 계지시 님도 님은 지금 내가 말해 취재 지금 까마 숨지지 되게 바지 세는데 동네 겨자 동네 타면 강의로 자냐 미디래 하고데 미카시 스스스스래 강에서 되거다 스스스스래야 스스스스래야 두고다 봐 스스스스로 강에서 스스스스 맞이었어 밀레 겨울에네다 초스케면도 다 대파 딜레 타고지 좋은 산데네 다들 디시기 콜레터를 타고서야 돼다 남배 추억이 시절어디 교드네 고조용 거라 교드네 남배 추억 뭐네지 저한테 교우 등에 제가 교우 충분히 치료받다 다 jam로 된 겨울에서 교우치마 미단 할 고마 등에데 주로 많아가 지고 왔다.
Right.
다 남번이 뭐네 교우 등에 걸어왔다.
So we can still see that human beings, we have to experience suffering. Like in our minds, we might think this human rebirth is something perfect, but in reality, it doesn't take long when we actually think about it to understand that there is suffering. Like if we're born as a human, we start off suffering straight away within a couple of hours. And when we meet people, we always understand we're all undergoing difficulties, problems, and suffering, right? So we can definitely see the suffering of this human rebirth. And so understanding that as long as you're born in samsara, you're going to undergo suffering, then one wishes to attain liberation from that, and that's when one enters the medium scope. And when we talk about this medium scope, we can actually say that this is really a Buddhist path, right? or like unique path to Buddhism. Because if we talk about being born as a human or God, well, most religious philosophies have some idea, like they have this kind of idea. You know, the Hindus obviously have it, but also, you know, a lot of religions hold that, you know, it's about getting reborn as in a godlike state in your next life, right? So this seeking liberation is when you actually could be said to be a Buddhist practitioner. The small scope is not really something unique to Buddhism.
다 되네. 교부 청부 남시에 다 라니 지구 거월에 타는 드림도 왔다. 배당서 교부 충무게 남이 냠내도 야고 요이는 교부 등 야고 차요래. 봐. 가서는 저 치마 오다 저 치마 지요 하고는 마 저치마 아니 둘을 깨는 배사들이 마 미조는 것도 세 상무디 요이는 다디 지우지 찾아라. 아 대유나 아니 다 겨우마지 거든들이 차와 겨우마지 거든들이 차 겨우마지 거든들이 먼저 상가라 딱 두스 상마 셈제 두스 상마 니 아마 친요 니 빠와 친요 니 부부 친요 버다 알아가네 참고죠 친요를 해서제 상로됐다 셈제 탐제라는 거리 친구인 거데 근데 교우 친구가 잔주 셈제도 셈제단 정도 잔주 셈제나 근데명아 윤시한테 마신 셈제단지라고 마시는 거 심으라고 그러 지단 교부 충분 냠내야고 여는 심지 던지랑 마치는 거 씹었어야 돼. 생라 라시기 조금 쉬지 시도 걸어.
Right, so they're great scope practitioners. They then think that, okay, attaining this individual liberation for myself, well, that's not enough, right? And why do they think about that? Because, you know, now we've been reborn as a human being, right? But once we understand about this previous and future lives, then it stands to reason, just as, you know, we had a mother in this life. We've had mothers in all of our previous lives, or many of our previous lives, right? And therefore all sentient beings have been our mothers, have been our fathers, have been our brothers, sisters, etc. like that. So all these beings have become incredibly kind, have been incredibly kind to us, right? And we can see this when we look at this 7-point cause and effect method for developing bodhicitta, that it starts off with seeing all sentient beings as our mothers.
어디지? 다들려요. 아니, 다 잔주쌤, 잔주쌤. 아니, 이제 탐지했지. 아니, 아니 타월에, 아니 타월스토. 다 타월삼지. 타월삼지. 라좀 토바잠지 심지 전치도 배워 말. 가르서나. 렌데 지남샤 타시 타워 신기어 말와. 또 렌데 남샤 타시 타워 마시나나 아니. 제 내단 치마시 신기 맞다. 데 신이데 수신거도 라이데 산제기 신기어. 다 제도 당아 산제 토고도. 산제 토나 뭐왜 내서 렌데 남샤 타시 타워 시제 행에 심지 신라야. 근도 지기 인스 상당한데. 당서 데 상문 내가 배 전부 잡아. 미카시기 심지 탐제시들 아니 산제차들 디 삽자를 신차도 그래서 가서는 이 차가 말했어. 산제 토베야 코나 심지 치들이 있을 때 산제 디 탑랑 소리. 산제 디네 톱자타도 말해. 톱자타도디 심지가 디기요야 그랬어. 심지 디기요야시도 산제 고마토도 살레디 아니 디 신데나 신변 바식을 돼야라. 이 상로디 다 먼저 이 상로 당고요. 그래서
So, if we have this bodhicitta, then we start to realize, well, even if I attain this state of liberation, then I'm not going to be able to fully benefit sentient beings. And why is this? Because even the arhats, they don't have this understanding of the subtle nature of cause and effect, the subtle law of karma, cause and effect, right? So who has this understanding? It's only a fully enlightened Buddha that has this complete understanding of the nature of all things. And through this understanding, that's how they're actually able to benefit sentient beings, right? So if we, you know, people might think, oh, well, if you want to attain Buddhahood, then that actually trying to attain something is actually going to increase your self-cherishing. But it's not like that. It's not attaining Buddhahood for me to get some power or some sort of sense of awesomeness. It's why do we do it? It's in order to benefit others, right? So basically, through obtaining the ability and the wisdom of the Buddha, through that's how we'd be able to actually be of benefit to others.
other those check the number san yebe from roji tangu pija shawa de shana antan so shumo shi ma to na that they la that they shas ane so sim di shasara ji la gora
Right. So hopefully this should give you some background picture of the whole of Buddhism, right? And so having a bit of an understanding of the two truths and the four truths and so forth, then when we actually talk about the real text, then you should be able to get a deeper understanding of it.
Hey, Joran, the bucket
A bucket.
Basket.
Oh, basket. What are we going to do with a bucket?
Basket.
All right, so your basket's getting pretty full. What have we got in there? We've got the two truths, the four truths, the three jewels, Cuddy. What else? The three scopes. What else did we talk about? Yeah, no, I think that was it. Still pretty full.
Did you the college did you the college day
Right. So, yeah, no, like, we talk about a lot of different things, but this always continually talks about these points that we've talked about today, right? So, even if you come to class or you don't come to class, you need to understand these things, right? But if you don't come to class, it might be a little bit tricky for you. Yeah.
Sometimes come, sometimes not come. Then you're missing one story. Then, now you see.
Like a hook?
Yeah, hook whip.
A whip?
All
right. Okay, so this is like the whip, to whip you into coming to class.
You have the monetary pen, to go new subject,
Right.
Today you had the Kalay, did they do the Kalay, and Jimmy do
Right.
chicks that there is any same.
Right. So if you haven't been studying or coming to the class and understanding this stuff, then when it's explained, it's a bit tricky, right? It can be a bit difficult. But if you come to the class and we talk about it again and go over it again and again and again, then as you develop the familiarity, then when you hear these points, the two truths, four truths, etc., then you can understand them more easily, right? And then it becomes easily when he talks about it and you go, oh, yeah, that's what he's talking about. So you can understand it.
They are worried. We course is very good. We keep understanding how benefit our class.
Yeah.
Usually I had this in a monastery. Usually every year I go to Dharamsala, listen to Dalai teaching. Then in each year understand deeper. Then I very appreciate learning class, and I never miss and listen to my teachers class because I saw a benefit. Each year I understand more deeper. Where's come from this? Go to class. This class. Then the same
Right, then you get a real understanding the benefit of it.
There you are. Well, that's where we still here.
Okay.
Let's keep going.